Today I am going to share some essential tips that will help you excel in your economics exam. In this video, my main focus is to discuss not only the important tips to be kept in mind while attempting the paper, but also certain strategies even while preparing for the exam. First half of the video, I am sharing the important tips, and in the second half, we will discuss few important questions from past board papers. Make sure that you watch the video till the end. Let's start with the basics. First and foremost, while learning the definitions, pay attention to the keywords. I know that it requires skill of rote learning, but this shows understanding of the basic concepts and gets you score easily. Avoid oversimplifying your language. Use specific economic terms. This adds credibility to your answers and also shows your deep engagement with the subject. Think of it as speaking the language of economics. You can actually pause the video here to understand the difference between simplified language and economic jargon by paying attention to this slide. Another powerful tool at your disposal is the use of diagrams and graphs. Diagrams and graphs are not just visual aids, they are crucial for illustrating complex economic relationships. Presentation matters. Use a ruler for straight lines to keep your work neat and professional. Avoid vague references like in the left figure. Be specific in your illustrations. Don't just draw diagrams, reference them in your answers. Explain what they illustrate and how they support your argument. Accuracy is key. If you are discussing demand or supply, mention what is being supplied, be it wheat, water, or any other commodity, and always label your axis clearly. Use arrows to indicate changes in variables. This makes your diagrams more informative. Remember, a well-labeled diagram with correct arrows can significantly convey your understanding, especially when you're short on time. This is another important tip. Economics is about probabilities. Avoid overusing the word will. Instead, opt for phrases like may or could lead to. Frame your predictions as possibilities. It reflects the complex nature of economic systems and show a mature understanding of the subject. Another important tip to be kept in mind is this one. You can pause the video here to read the whole slide. Economics is not just about models and diagrams. It is about the world around us. Whenever possible, tie in examples or real-world applications to make your answers more engaging and persuasive. Lastly, manage your time wisely. Use any reading time effectively to plan your approach and allocate time to each section adequately. Now let us discuss few questions from past board papers. I have taken 12 questions here where I feel we can discuss various important aspects to be kept in mind while preparing for the economics exam. I have tried to pick important questions, and these questions can also become the benchmark for you to tackle various similar other questions. Always remember, when you get these type of questions, it is important to write complete and full definition to score full marks. Now, in this type of question, common errors made by the students are not mentioning the term monetary base, not mentioning the correct components of high-powered money, or not mentioning all 4 components of high-powered money. So we need to keep these things in mind that whenever you get this type of question, which is knowledge-based, you need to give a complete answer to the question. This question I have taken to draw your attention to the keywords while learning the definitions. For example, in this question, many students do not either define the term deficit, and some do not mention another keyword, key phrase, which is creation of new money or printing of new currency in the definition of deficit financing. And they do tend to lose marks in the paper. In this question, the common error is that many students are unable to establish the functional relationship between input and output. Make sure that when you are preparing for the exams, you understand this functional relationship in the form of an equation and do write that in the exam to score full marks. Advantage is that if you can learn and write this way, you don't have to spend time memorizing the whole definition in words as in the second alternative given. You also need to keep in mind that definitions are not just rote learning, but they also depict your depth of conceptual understanding. Most of the candidates, instead of writing that overdraft implies the overdrawing from a current account, tend to write that it means the withdrawal of the amount from the account. Many students fail to mention that in case of an overdraft, interest is charged by the banks on the amount withdrawn. And if you fail to mention all this, you will lose marks. I took this question to emphasize on the importance of writing both the definition and formula or a diagram wherever required. For example, even in the law of demand question in 10 ICSC, it's a very common question, but the students lose marks because they forget to give a simple diagram to accompany the law of demand definition. In the questions on indifference curves, make sure that you draw one curve for an indifference curve and at least 3 indifference curves while defining an indifference map. Several students define indifference curve instead of indifference map. In many answer scripts, the labeling of the indifference map is incorrect. Make sure that you notice that it's good 1 and good 2 on both the axes. This question I took as an example because I want to bring to your notice that how accuracy is important in the diagrams. In this diagram, you need to make sure that when your TP curve is maximum, MP curve should be 0 and should touch the OX axis. When MP is maximum, there is a change in the curvature of TP. These are very important points to be kept in mind while practicing. If you get this as a 6-marker question and you're short on time to explain the theory part of the question, the accuracy, clarity, and correct diagram tells the examiner that you do know the concept. This question I picked up to show the silly mistakes we tend to make while drawing diagrams. A few students draw diagrams to measure elasticity of demand instead of drawing the diagram to measure elasticity of supply. Make sure that you practice by writing the correct notations for each type of elasticity and then learn to draw the diagrams. Write the formulas to measure the elasticities and draw the graphs for each case. Another important point to be kept in mind is that you need to draw the supply curve and then extend that curve so that it touches your OX or OY axis. Many students fail to label the diagrams, and a few of us get confused between greater than or less than symbols while drawing elasticity of supply or demand diagrams. This question I took from the past papers to highlight that preparation needs to be in depth. The common errors made in this type of question is majority of the students define total utility as utility derived from all commodities, whereas total utility is defined as the utility obtained from consumption or certain or specific quantity of a commodity. Many candidates write TU is equal to sigma mu or simply define utility instead of defining exact definition of total utility. Remember that TU is equal to sigma mu is a relationship between TU and mu. Therefore, while preparing, pay attention to these minute details. It is also significant to be clear about writing precise answers in the economics paper. You might ask me, why do we need to be precise? The reasons are to manage your time efficiently as well as not rambling and beating around the bush. Common mistakes we make in the above type of questions is that question asked is that TC and TVC curves do not start from the same point. What is the reason behind that? Many candidates write TC is equal to TVC plus TFC as the reason for this part. They do not write the exact reason for these curves to be starting from different points. A few students do write that TC starts from the point where TFC starts, but hardly any student mentions the starting point of TVC. Thereby, your answer is incomplete. These types of chapters need to be practiced actively with a paper and pen in your hands. Always derive a table between all types of costs and then observe the relationship between all the cost curves by drawing and practicing them. Practice each curve. Pay attention to where the curve is starting from. Make sure that you understand the reasons for the shapes of each curve while preparing. Keeping these steps in mind will help you to be very precise and clear while attempting the paper and also manage your time well. This is a tricky question which confuses the students if they don't pay attention to detail while preparing for the exam. Majority of the students fail to mention real income or purchasing power. Most students only write about real income without relating it to demand. Many students think that the income effect is an increase in the income, hence write about the effect of change in income on demand instead of on real income. I want you to pause the video here and read the answer and make sure that you understand the correct answer. Another example, this is our last question, which can cause confusion. Majority of the students get confused between the definitions of MPS and APS. Most candidates define MPS as change in saving for change in income. This would be a very vague definition of MPS and has nothing to do with its concept. The answer expected is that MPS is the ratio of change in saving to change in income. Also make sure that you write the full form of MPS, its definition and its formula, even if not asked for in the question. I have only taken a few sample questions from the past papers, but this approach can be applied to various other questions. With these strategies in your toolkit, you are well on your way to mastering your economics exam. Remember, it's not just about what you know, it's also about how you present it. Good luck, and here's to your success.